This coming July 4th, coinciding with the 250th anniversary celebration of our country, parents of children born from January 1st, 2025 and after will be able to open their Trump account, a program designed to encourage long-term savings for their baby's future. Joining us to break down how the plan works and what families should consider is Lawrence Sprung. He's the founder of Midland Financial and author of Financial Planning Made Personal. Good to see you, Lawrence, here on the eve of Thanksgiving. Can you break down this new savings plan?
Yeah, so I mean, this was passed, this year, and as you said, I think financial institutions should be ready by July of 2026 to start actually opening these and allowing people to use them. But basically, children born between 2025 and 2028 will have these accounts opened in their name, and every eligible child will receive $1,000 government funded deposit, basically giving their child an automatic foundation for long-term savings. Essentially, parents can then add up to $5,000 per year, and employers can add to these accounts as well. And the whole idea is we're giving children a boost to their financial future. And essentially, the account is locked till they're 18, and then it acts very similarly to an IRA after that, where basically you pay taxes on the growth and not the initial deposits.
Yeah, and you mentioned employers, which is kind of a nuance of the U.S. versus other countries in that many people get their health insurance from their employers, and they also get different types of long-term savings programs, which employers either sponsor or in some cases, they even match up to a certain percentage. So how might these Trump accounts, where it's not the retiree, the employee, it's their children, how might employers, get involved with those accounts?
Yeah, so it's very similar to what you would think, as you mentioned, like a 401k match or a profit sharing contribution to a retirement plan or a 401k, where the employer is actively making a contribution on behalf of the employer, or I should say on the employee, for their financial future and their retirement. Employers are going to be given the same ability to contribute up to $2,500 annually, so it is going to be capped, and it's not going to count as taxable income for the employee. So if I give $2,500 to a Trump account for one of my employees, it's not going to count as additional taxable income to them, very much like the employer match or profit sharing contributions would be, but it's really focused on their children.
And then where does the money go? So, these accounts get funded, the money's being banked for 30, 50 years potentially. Where does it get invested? And walk us through some of the scenarios on what the child could expect, down the road in terms of compound interest.
Yeah, so there are going to be several options. Also, again, very similar to a 401k, where there will be options. And those options, though, are going to be limited to broad U.S. stock index funds. So, there will be a handful of different choices that can be chosen, but they are going to be U.S. based index funds or ETFs. And essentially, if you look at it this way, if you look at just the average returns of the general US market index, just by making some simple contributions to the child, they could have somewhere in the neighborhood of, $300,000 by age 18 and maybe over $1 million by age 28 if you're making the maximum yearly contributions. If you do nothing and you just invested in basically the most conservative option, it could be around 5,800 by age 18 or 18,000 by age 28 if you don't make any additional contributions and you just make that initial $1,000 contribution.
Got it. So lots of long-term opportunity. Another interesting thing that I pulled out of what you just said is that the investments go into American companies. And I know that one of the criticisms of a lot of these different types of accounts that pool together lots of different stocks is that sometimes those stocks might even be benefiting some adversarial countries. So how do they do the oversight to make sure that if the U.S. government is getting a child started with their investment account, that the money stays and benefits, the U.S. economy?
Yeah, so just to be clear, it's not necessarily just US companies, it's US based indexes. So it's companies that are in the US based indexes like the S&P 500 or the Russell 1000. I'm not 100% sure because they're not out yet exactly what those indices are, but there are some companies, majority of them are US based. So if you look at the indices, those are going to be the companies that you're going to see in there. And each one of those indices has a very strict selection process on how to get into the indice. So I'm sure that's something that's being considered.
Oh, very interesting. Now, Lawrence, how does a Trump account compare to other long-term savings plans that might be, available to parents?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different, right? I guess there are several different vehicles out there. One widely known is the 529 plan, which I believe we've even talked about on the show, which is really geared towards higher education. And I think really the difference here is they act very similarly. There are no deposits by the government, which is quite different. But from an investment standpoint, the 529 plan, to get the maximum tax benefit, your child has to go to some form of higher education or trade school. You do not have these same requirements with these Trump accounts. The Trump accounts are not necessarily just geared towards education purposes. It's really geared towards getting our youth on the right financial footing. And I think that, this is something that can do that. So I think some of the other options have implications with financial aid, have to be geared towards college or higher education or trade school. And there are no limitations on this one. So it could be used really for anything to hopefully build wealth for these young kids.
Oh, that's great. More flexibility and potentially a long-term view, potentially getting their nest egg going for retirement if they want to parlay it that long. And Lawrence, just as we finish up briefly, just want to get your understanding from how parents can get started, as well as parents who, their kids may be born before 2025.
Yeah, so if they're born before 2025 and they're under 18, they can still open these accounts when they are available. They're just not going to get that $1,000 head start. So they can use them and start doing that. And I think one of the things, one of the unintended consequences of these accounts that has not been really talked about a lot is, talking about money early with children is super helpful. There is a lack of financial literacy and financial understanding, I feel like, in this country. For the last 20 plus years, I've heard we have to teach this in school. And although we're getting better, I still feel like we're missing the mark in that regard. But, this gives families an opportunity to sit down, put a little bit of money in an account for their child, and have conversations and review those statements so they can start those money conversations super early.
As always, sage advice from Lawrence. Great to see you. Happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate it.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving to all of you as well.